Yesterday, a 2.8 trillion parameter machine rolled out of a garage in Beijing and set the fastest lap ever recorded by an open AI model, not close to the frontier. On it, on one of the only leaderboards judged blind. By humans, it just beat GPT 5.6 and Claude Fable 5 outright. It costs a third of what the champions charge. And in 10 days, the blueprints go public because the whole car is open weights. So tonight, we are doing this properly. 3 machines, 1 circuit. Every timing screen in this session is a real, verified number. Most of them measured by independent timekeepers. And I will tell you clearly which ones are the team's own claims. Because here is what nobody covering this launch is saying out loud. This car does not win the championship. The story is stranger than that. It wins certain corners. Corners everyone assumed were locked up. And it runs wide in one place that matters. And if you know exactly which is which, you can use this thing tomorrow like a professional instead of a fanboy. By the end of this session, you will know which of these 3 models to put your own work on and how to get behind the wheel of the new one in about 5 minutes. Free. The full telemetry, every number, every source link, every setup command is a free PDF. Comment the word Apex and I will send it to you. Lights are going out. Welcome to the Apex session. Before anything races, it goes through scrutineering. So, the 3 machines. In the champion's garage, Claude Fable 5. Anthropic shipped it in June, a new tier above Opus, and the most expensive seat in the sport at $10 per million tokens in, 50 out. Next door, GPT 5.6 Soul, OpenAI's flagship, public since July 9th, $5 in, 30 out. And the new garage, Kimi K3 from Moonshot I, released yesterday. And mechanically, this thing is strange in the best way. 2.8 trillion total parameters, but it is a mixture of experts. For every token, it activates just 16 of its 896 experts. So you are never paying for the whole engine at once. A brand new attention design the team calls Kimi Delta Attention, which they say decodes up to 6 times faster when the context gets huge. And the context is huge. A full million tokens with native image and video input. One more detail engineers will appreciate. It was quantization aware from training onward, so the efficiency is built into the metal, not bolted on after. Now, the stopwatch rules, because this is where most benchmark videos lie to you. Moonshot published a big shiny table. That is the team timing its own car. And I will always call those team claims. What I trust more? Independent timekeepers. Artificial analysis, who run every model through the same stopwatch, and arena, where blind human judges pick winners without knowing which car they are looking at. Everything tonight is date stamped July 17th, the day after launch. Green light, Sector 1. Sector 1, the full lap. One number that blends everything: coding, agents, science, general reasoning. Artificial analysis calls it the intelligence index, and they run all 189 frontier configurations through the identical test suite. Here is the tower. P1, Claude Fable 5 at maximum effort, 59.9. P2, GPT 5.6 Soul at max, 58.9. P3 is Soul again on a lighter setting, and then P4, Kimi K3, 57.1. Now, P4 out of 189 might sound like a polite loss. So let me give you the context that turns it into the headline. The average model in that field scores around 30. The best open weights machine in history, before yesterday, GLM 5.2, sat at 51.1. K3 just beat the entire open field by 6 full points and pulled within 2.8 of the best closed model money can buy. And remember what the 2 cars ahead of it cost. The gap to the champion is smaller than the gap between their price tags. and it is not remotely close. One lap does not decide a race weekend, and composite scores hide where each machine actually earns its time. That is what sectors are for. But if you only remember one number from tonight, 57.1, independent stopwatch, from a car whose blueprints you will be able to download. Before Sector 2, look at the history charts on the pit wall, because this is the part that should genuinely rattle the two big garages. Artificial analysis runs a second composite called GDP-Val, real deliverables from 44 real occupations, financial models, legal briefs, engineering documents, judged as work product. It reads like racecraft, not lab tricks. The tower there, Fable 5 at 1760, Seoul at 1743, Kimi K3 1668, which puts the Challenger ahead of Claude Opus 4.8 at 1600, the model that was Anthropic's own flagship until 5 weeks ago. Let that land properly. A free to download car, once the weights drop, outdrives the recently retired champion of the most expensive team in the paddock. Now, the history. 6 months back, Kimi's previous car, K 2.6, sat at 1191 on this same board. 1668 means they found 477 ELO points in one generation. The timekeepers themselves called the Jump Plus 732 on their agentic board, the biggest single generation gain they have ever logged. Here is the pattern I want you to see. The distance between open and closed models used to be measured in years. Then, it was months. As of last night, the honest measurement is weeks. Nobody knows if the curve holds. But if you are building anything on AI, that curve is now part of your strategy, whether you like it or not. Sector 2, the coding complex, the corners where these machines make people money. And this is where the Challenger sets a purple sector, the racing term for the fastest time anyone has ever set through that piece of track. Here is how Arena.ai measures it. Real humans judge blind, deciding which model builds the better interface. They never learn which car is which. They simply pick the winner. Kimi K3, number 1, 1679. Ahead of Fable 5 at 1631. In head-to-head matchups, it wins 76% of the time. The Arena CEO called this may be the single biggest release of the year. That is not the team talking. That is the crowd at the fence watching it corner. Now, the rest of the complex, honestly. Terminal work, running real command line tasks on the independent stopwatch. Seoul is still king at 88.8, K3 at 85, Fable at 84.6. Worth noting, the team claims 88.3 for themselves. The independent watch says 85. That gap is exactly why we label claims. On the team's own table, they edge program bench by 2/10. They win a long endurance benchmark called SWE Marathon, but Fable clearly beats them on Frontier SWE, 86.6 against 81.2, and Seoul takes deep SWE. So read the sector like an engineer. Front end and user interfaces. The Challenger is now, verifiably, the fastest car in the world. The deepest software engineering corners. The champions still hold the racing line. Sector 3, the Agent S's, the part of the track that looks like an actual job. Artificial analysis has a private benchmark called Briefcase, long horizon office work, where the model has to operate tools, hold a plan for hours, and produce something a manager would accept. Private matters, because nobody can train on the test. Independent tower, Fable 5 holds P1 at 1583, and P2, this is the shock, Kimi K3 1547. GPT 5.6 Seoul, at maximum effort, sits behind the Challenger at 1496. Let me say that without the racing metaphor, so there is zero ambiguity. On an independent, private benchmark of realistic multi-step knowledge work, The $3 Open Challenger just outworked OpenAI's flagship, 51 Elo clear. The team also claims the top spot on browsing, 91.2 on Browse.com, ahead of both champions, and a win on document understanding, which fits. Give it a workflow with tools attached, and it drives. Where does Fable stay champion? The very long, very ambiguous stuff. Even Moonshot's own release notes admit the car can be, quote, excessively proactive. It makes unexpected decisions when your instructions are vague. Fable reads your intent better lap after lap. That is what the 36 Elo gap feels like in practice. But if your question was, can open weights do real agent work at frontier level? As of yesterday, the answer is on the timing screen. Yes. Box. That is the call. The car is coming in. And for the next 20 seconds, the crew owns this broadcast. While the wheel guns are spinning, real talk. 90% of you watching haven't subscribed. On Facebook, subscribe is the supporter button. That is what keeps the lights on here. On YouTube, it's free, and it tells the algorithm to send you more. Subscribe to support us. And we are wheels on, lights green, go. 2 sectors left, and the next one is the corner where the challenger runs wide. You need to see it before you trust this car with anything. Sector 4, the knowledge hairpin. And here is where I stop the hype and earn your trust. First, the impressive part. On the hardest science exam in the sport, GPQA Diamond, PhD level questions designed to be ungoogleable, the team's table reads 93.5, with Soul at 94.1 and Fable at 92.6. Team claims, remember? But even the shape is remarkable. 3 cars within 1.5 of each other at the absolute ceiling of the sport. On humanity's last exam, the challenger posts 43.5. So on structured, hard reasoning, this thing corners with the champions. Now the wide moment. The same independent timekeepers run a test called omniscience. It measures whether a model knows what it does not know. K3 scored 18.4, well off the leaders. Worse, its hallucination rate, how often it answers confidently instead of admitting uncertainty, got worse than its own predecessor, 51%, up from 39. The engine got smarter and somehow more willing to bluff. Moonshot did something rare and admitted it themselves. Their notes concede a, quote, noticeable gap in user experience against Fable 5. So here is the professional read, and this one sentence is worth the whole video. This car is faster than ever and lies more confidently than ever. So never drive it through open facts without instruments. Give it retrieval, give it documents, give it tools that let it check. With receipts attached, it is frontier. Freestyling from memory. It will smile at you and be wrong. Now the pitfall conversation. Nobody does properly. Race economics. Sticker prices per million tokens. The challenger. $3 in, 15 out. And if your prompts repeat, cached input drops to 30 cents. And Moonshot claims coding workloads hit that cache more than 90% of the time. Soul, 5 and 30. Fable, 5, 10 and 50. So per token, K3 runs at a third of the champion's rate. The exact same sticker, by the way, as Claude Sonnet 5. A midfield price on a front row car. But sticker price is not what a lap costs. So here is the honest fuel math. This engine only has one mode. Maximum thinking. Always on. You cannot turn the effort down yet. Running the full intelligence test suite, it burned 130 million output tokens. The champions did the same work in 70 and 87. Nearly double the fuel for the same distance. It is also not quick out of the garage. About 62 tokens per second, with around half a minute of silent thinking before the first word arrives. Simon Willison, one of the most respected independent testers in the field, measured a single Pelican drawing prompt at 25 cents and noted this is now the most expensive model any Chinese lab has ever shipped, triple its own predecessor. The era of dirt cheap open models from China is officially over. And yet, when independent timekeepers priced full real world tasks, the Challenger came out at 95 cents a task, Soul at $4, Opus 4.8 at $36. Cheap per liter, thirsty per lap, and still the cheapest way to finish the race. Enough spectating. Garage time. Let's get you behind the wheel, and the first three doors are basically free. Door 1, zero setup, Kimi.com. K3 is live there right now, on the web, on the phone apps, on the desktop app, free to try under standard limits. Same brain, $0, 30 seconds from now. If you have never felt a 2.8 trillion parameter model respond, go feel it tonight. Door 2, the API, and this is genuinely a 5-minute job. You create a key on their platform. And if you have ever called any AI API, you already know this one. It speaks the same protocol as OpenAI's SDK. You point the base URL at api.moonshot.ai, set the model to Kimi-K3 and send a message. That is the entire integration. Same million token context. $3 in, 15 out. Straight from your own code. The exact commands are in the PDF. Copy paste ready. Door 3. Even lazier. OpenRouter already lists it. Same price. So if your stack already routes through them, switching to K3 is editing one string. 2 quirks before you drive off. So nothing surprises you. Temperature is logged at 1. The API ignores your sampling settings. That is by design. And thinking is always on, at full effort. There is no fast cheap mode yet. The team says lighter settings are coming. So for quick trivial calls, it is overkill. For real work, it is glorious. That is the road car. Now let me show you the race setup. Garage 2. The setup working engineers actually care about. Putting this engine inside a real coding agent. And here is the twist of the year. The officially documented path runs through Claude Code. Moonshot ships an Anthropic compatible endpoint, and their own docs walk you through it. You set 2 environment variables, the base URL to their Anthropic endpoint, your Kimi key as the auth token, model Kimi-K3, and Claude Code, the harness, now has a Kimi engine under the hood. Same agent workflow, same tools, different car. They also ship their own open source command line agent, Kimi Code. One install command, pick K3 with the model switch, and Klein and Roux code are documented too. If you would rather pay flat rate than per token, the subscriptions are real value. The $19 a month tier is the cheapest way to run a frontier coding agent all day. Higher tiers unlock the full million token window inside the agent. And the top plan runs up to 300 parallel sub-agents, which is frankly absurd in the best way. And then, July 27th, 10 days out. Moonshot has promised the full weights publicly. Honesty first, the license is not announced yet. There is nothing on Hugging Face as of today, and self-hosting guidance starts at 64 accelerators. This is not a laptop pet, whatever a thumbnail told you. But the moment weights drop, every serious hosting provider races each other to serve it. Prices fall, fine tunes appear, and none of it needs Moonshot's permission anymore. That is what OpenWeights actually buys you, not a download, leverage. The checkered flag, podium ceremony, and then the part you should screenshot. P1, still, Claude Fable 5. Every independent composite, the full lap, the real work board, the agent board, it holds them all. If your work is long, ambiguous, high stakes, where a wrong but confident answer costs real money, you pay the 10 and 50 and you stop thinking about it. Champions are expensive because they finish. P2, GPT-5.6 Soul. King of the terminal at 88.8, remarkably fuel efficient, nearly half the Challenger's token burn, and half Fable's price. The professional's daily driver. P3, and the loudest podium finish in years. Kimi K3. Best open weights result in the history of the sport. Blind judged world number one on front end code. Ahead of Seoul on independent long horizon agent work. A third of the champion's price. Runs wide on unsupported facts. Slow out of the garage. Thirsty per lap. And in 10 days, you can own the blueprints. So, which car do you actually drive? If you are building interfaces, or agents wired into real tools, or you are cost sensitive at scale, the Challenger starting tonight. If you live in the terminal and care about efficiency, Soul. If the answer being right the first time is worth more than the bill, Fable, still, and it is not close on the composites. That is the honest matrix. Screenshot it. And the photograph that matters is wider than any of it. For the first time ever, there is an open car on the Frontier podium. The gap is weeks now, not years. Whatever you are building in the sport that just changed. Everything from tonight's session is packed and waiting for you. The Apex Data Pack, a free PDF with the full timing tower, every verified benchmark with its source link and its date stamp, clearly labeled independent versus team claim. The which car for which work decision matrix. The 5-minute setup, the exact API calls, copy paste ready, the Claude Code engine swap with the exact environment variables, and the July 27 weights checklist. So you are first in line when the blueprints drop. Comment the word Apex and I will send it over, or grab it from the link in the description. If you are just getting started with this stuff, my paid beginner guides for Claude Code, for Codex, and for Claude at Work take you from zero to driving, step by step. They are linked below. If this session earned it, subscribe here on YouTube. And if these deep dives are worth real support, have a look at the membership or the supporter button on Facebook. The builds behind these videos live on Instagram. Come see how the garage works. Now, one lap before the lights go off. Do not let this be another video you nod at and forget. Open kimi.com tonight and give the challenger one real task from your actual work, or swap one endpoint in one side project. That is the whole assignment. 10 days from now, the weights drop, the field resets, and the drivers who already have laps in this car will be moving while everyone else reads the manual. The next session is already forming up. Bring lap times,